So first, before we get started, I just want to say congratulations and happy birthday to the RMA Journal, 100 years. That's amazing. I've been with the Journal and the Journal's been with me for my 20-year career in risk management. And as I started out in my career, I was really looking for a forum or a channel to learn and where my peers can share with me on their lessons learned and their best practices. And that's what I used the Journal for very early in my career. It was very much a learning tool.
So I read the Journal every month. When it comes in, I look through it, say, okay, what are the articles, what is most important to me, and what might resonate with folks on the team.
Well, a little story on how often I read it. I was first introduced to the RMA Journal June 16, 1980. I actually remember that day because it was the first day of work as a new credit analyst at NCNB. And there's two things that happen on that day, and a lot of us think about it as the RMA Journal, but back then, for me, it was the RMA Journal Library. And so, as a credit analyst, we were instructed, this is one of the first places you need to go when you're going to analyze a credit. You got to find a case study in the RMA Journal to cite for the analysis you would do. The second thing we were taught was the Robert Morris Rules. And so when the name changed to Risk Management Association, I always admired how clean the acronym transition was. But I was taught on that day Robert Morris Rules about how to ask another bank about credit experience and exposure. So now you fast forward to today. Back then, it was just part of my day-to-day life. And so we would always be pulling it every day. Now I would look at it immediately when it arrives. I'll scan to see if there are some articles. Two things I'm looking for. One, articles written by friends of mine. And so I'm looking to see if somebody's done something that I want to read right away. And then two, I'm also looking for the operational risk stories, because those operational risk stories are very, very useful for the class I teach on advanced operational risk.
The Journal is like a meeting place to me, and it's where you come with some of the best thinkers about risk of our times. They don't have the benefit of my ideas that I would exchange with them, but I certainly benefit from understanding what the thinking leaders are, the issues they're considering, and how they're thinking about different topics.
The Journal tackles issues and topics that are relevant to what I do on a day-to-day basis, and it covers them at a high enough level that I can quickly absorb the important and meaty parts of it, and in every case I'll have to do a deeper dive. There are references there, but it gets me started.
I read it because it makes me better at my work. There is always a topical article in there that will address some problem that I or my company is working on at the present time, and they enable reading that and being aware of that gets you right to the point very quickly.
The RMA Journal is a niche piece. It's not meant for the common reader. When I eventually got published in it, and I was so excited I came home and told the family. The kids just thought that we could go to a newsstand and pick it up and see Dad on the cover. Or when we were at the airport, they were like, how come I don't see the RMA Journal there? And that's because I reminded it's a professional piece. It's actually set up for a group of professionals that are in banking, in financial services, with a focus on risk management. And if you are in that industry, banking, financial services, and you are a risk management professional, and you do not get the RMA Journal, you're definitely missing out. You're missing out on opportunities to learn from others and find ways to improve your risk management program, have it be value added, less burdensome, and ultimately add tremendous returns for your company.
The Journal is a compilation of almost everything you'd want to know in the commercial banking industry and in the overall enterprise risk It has a number of different tidbits that can be beneficial, not only for commercial bankers, but for our operations individuals, our audit, just the entire spectrum of our organization can benefit from the journal.
It's the absolute one thing you should have available to you at all times. In fact, you should have a library of older ones where you can go back, search the database on the online capabilities, go back in and read it. It will shortcut your labor. It will lower your bills for outside consultants in the company. And it's just the perfect solution for many day-to-day issues.
So I would describe the journal to not just a banker that's not familiar, but just an average person reading it, that it is a practitioner's application. So you can take the journal, and if there are different issues and how those were addressed in examples of check sheets that are done, that you can use that for a practical application on how to address an issue, and more importantly, I think how to solve some key aspects, and at a minimum on how you would approach and taking a look at the options that you might have in addressing an issue. I find that extremely valuable. So it gives you options on how you're going to address key issues.
Well, frankly, I'd be worried about a banker who's not familiar with the RMA Journal, because that tells me they probably aren't really schooled in the fundamentals of risk management that over 100 years RMA has been the go-to place. You know, I go back to the beginning of my career. Our bank didn't, create its own cookbook for lending. It relied on an RMA, which had been around for then 70 years or whatever the number is. So I would start with, start reading it, and ideally focus in on those areas of your special interest. And like in my case, operational risk. I continue to believe it's the foundation skill of people, process, systems, external event analysis that all good bankers need to understand. But if you're a lender who specializes in commercial real estate or whatever it is, you really ought to have your own library of those best articles that have been written by some of the best credit people in the country over the last 25 years, because I think the things that are in the RMA Journal, the very best articles, they are lifelong principles of good credit underwriting, and those things really don't change over time.
I would say, are you reading the journal? And if they said no, I would say, you do realize that you're making a big mistake. If you truly want to understand what the best thinkers of our time are concerned about and the issues they're dealing with, you'll read it in the journal.